For being a few minutes late, we'll start the open agenda for the police board for November 21st, 2023. We start our meetings by recognizing and respecting the newest ministers on the unceded and unsurrendered land of the Halkah speaking peoples. And we acknowledge that colonialism has made invisible their histories and their connections to the land. And as a city, we're learning and building relationships with the people whose lands we're on. We would start with an adoption of the open agenda.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All in favor? All opposed? Carried. We have 5 items on the consent agenda. Does anyone want anything pulled from the consent agenda? Mary.
I have a question about 2.5A.
2.5A, JIBC.
Thank you.
Okay.
2.2.
2.2. Anything else to be? Anything else to be pulled from the consent agenda? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the remaining items on the consent agenda? Moved and seconded, all in favor, all opposed, carried. 2.2, Drew.
I sent a note out to the board. Oh, I don't know, the other day. I don't have the capacity to carry on with BCAPB. I just don't seem to be available whenever they meet. So need to step back from that and open that up to the board if there's someone else that can step into that.
What is the BCAPB?
BC Association of Police Boards.
And how are they meeting? Like, so you
They meet-
attend a meeting once a month?
They
Like,
meet monthly. They're doing a bunch of strategic planning work right now. It's just starting.
and we can nominate a person from the board just on.
We have a seat there, so.
We have a seat there. So I would put that out to the board if anyone would like to nominate themselves or to take part in this.
Everybody's looking around.
When are the meetings typically?
Friday morning.
Oh, wonderful.
They're 3 hours, right?
So,
Yeah, it's a long time, that's the.
Okay, so maybe if today no one's convinced exactly, it doesn't sound like everyone's excited about it. We do have a seat and it's probably worthwhile us having representatives. So if no one's excited today, maybe we'll bring it back to the next meeting and we'll have some conversations between ourselves about who might want to serve on that if no one's ready to jump in right now.
Can I just ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Would it be effective or ineffective to share, like to have people for us to take turns going, or would that be disruptive or challenging?
It would probably, right now, they're kicking off a strategic planning piece, which would probably be useful to have one person sort of through that, but then it wouldn't be an issue.
So people could take turns.
And how long is the strategic plan?
Yeah.
It's gonna be.
Not clear yet.
Cause you know, if it's like 3 hour meetings, I can kind of get behind it, if it's a whole year of that, it may be a bit different, you know what I mean?
I will find that out and I will get back to the board.
The board used to have one member identified with the backup.
Yeah, and I went through the backup, but.
Oh, that's all
I
right.
just find
Right now,
I'm
because
consistently,
with the baby,
I consistently haven't been
sometimes,
available to go, so.
And mornings for me are, like, I can pull an afternoon easily because he sleeps, but in the morning, I have to have someone around, he's wide awake 8:30 to like 12:30, so.
Okay, noted, Drew. Maybe we should, I don't see anyone jumping up to do it, so maybe what we'll do is we'll table this discussion until the next meeting and we will put it on the agenda next meeting to appoint somebody by press gang if we have to. I don't know if we're allowed to do that, but we'll try. Okay, thanks for the heads up though. Item 2.5A, JIBC, I think, Mary?
Thank you. My question is a little bit off the letter, but I figured I could try to ask it anyway. I guess what I'd like to know is if we were to recruit someone and pay all these fees and that person decided they wanted to go to Port Moody 6 months in or a year or whatever, what do we have any sort of agreement with another jurisdiction that they will pay those training fees that we invested? Do we do that? Can we do that?
We do not have that agreement. It has been batted around a little bit, but not by any traction. What has been discussed several times is some type of contract, employment contract with the actual recruit. So they would be, the RCMP have that. Transit police used to, I don't know if they still do. So it's something that we've talked about. We'll looking at. But we certainly, if it's something the board would like a little bit more information, we could certainly bring back a report to the board. That's probably more where we would have a little bit more control. Just trying to get all the chiefs in the province to agree to that, would be probably a little bit more problematic. But if we wanted to look like some type of employment contract, we could certainly bring back something for the board to consider.
Yeah, I would like to have that further discussion. I know we've talked about doing some advocacy to the JI regarding the increases or advocacy to the province, whoever it is we think will listen. But I think it would be helpful to have that conversation, especially if, I mean, people have a right to move around. I think that's reasonable. They move or whatever, something suits them better, but I think it's hard for a small municipality to pay those investment costs in someone and have them move shortly after being hired. So I think it would be great if we could have that conversation in
Absolutely.
the new year. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather.
Also, I'm just wondering, are we a net loss or net recruiter? Because like in BC, we're a net puller of healthcare professionals from other provinces. We'd never want to do something like that. So do we have a net positive or a net negative to other courses?
We probably have brought in more exempts for RCMP than we've lost any other organization.
Okay, so that's interesting too.
Well, we can include that in our.
Yeah, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, we don't want everyone to do it if it takes away. from our-
Yeah, that's a really good.
If we're the poacher, not the
The
poacher.
commanding officer of the RCMP probably, but.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. That's a really good point. Thank you.
okay.
That's all I have. Do we need to receive this or anything?
Yeah, so I should get a motion to receive both 2.2 and 2.5A because we pulled them both.
So moved.
Move the second, all in favor, all opposed, carried, thank you. 3.1, strategic plan update.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just do a quick verbal update further to the report that was attached along with the updated 2024 milestones. So just to take us back and just for anyone that's listening's benefit, as we all remember, the strat plan was originally approved back in February 22. In July of this year, we had a joint facilitated meeting with the board and the senior leadership team. We went through, reviewed the North Star, the various other aspects of the strategic plan. It was determined at that time that we were on the right track there as far as the North Star, the purpose, the values, and the goals were seen as being valid at this time. There was some discussion at that time about updating the milestones for 2024, the roadmap, if you will. And also making some changes with regards to milestones and perhaps the length and the term of the strategic plan moving forward. The senior leadership team had a further session just later in the fall of this year, where we developed 2024 roadmap milestones, which are attached in your package. They talk about our continued commitment to Indigenous peoples engagement, community engagement, service delivery and technology improvement, workplace health and engagement, and diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism principles. I should add as well that there was a determination, or at least a thought at the time, that and there's a typo here, it says 25, but in next year, 2024, we should again undertake a fuller or more fulsome planning exercise, including revisiting some components of the North Star. Gathering stakeholder feedback in the community and some of our partners in the community, conducting a scan and looking at setting a 25 to 27 roadmap to further align our strategic plan. So it falls in line with council elections so that when we can then align our strategic plan with municipal council strategic plan moving forward. In addition to that, I mentioned that. So, harmonizing our planning cycle with the municipal election cycle, which will see some efficiencies as far as incorporating what council's mandates are and what their thought process is with the police. And I think we heard some of that certainly yesterday in our joint meeting. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. There's a fulsome document there, which also I hopefully answered some of the questions or concerns that board members had about just having more fulsome data about the various milestones. But that is basically what we're looking at for 2024. And our facilitators, he's really good insofar as he says, these are living documents. So some of this can change, some stuff can be added or taken off. And it's as much the board's document. So happy to answer any questions.
Great. The board, any questions or comments?
I do.
Mary?
Just two questions. Was that a typo in the report where it said 2025 full planning exercise? Did you just correct that and say
Yes,
2024?
So we
Okay,
next year
good.
to plan for 25.
Yes, that's what I thought. Okay, good. I wanted to clarify that. And then on page 20 of this report, it refers to the retain a contractor to develop an Indigenous peoples engagement plan. And it says that the status is on track, but in the notes, it says budget required for this scope of work. So I'm just unclear, is the budget approved for this scope of work already, or are we needing budget for this deliverable?
I would say yes to both questions insofar as it is on track and we're planning to do it, but until our budget's finalized, the money that we would be looking at doing this would be coming out of existing consultant money.
So the consultant budget, which I think we've raised it this year a little bit, didn't we, Jacqueline?
This
year,
no.
Okay, it will come out of once, if the board approves the budget today, it'll come out of that budget.
It's
24.
okay. That's great. Thank you. And then I guess more generally, what I wanted to say is maybe I missed that in this first year of budget planning and strat planning is it would be interesting to understand better how the milestones fit in the budget or where they show up in the budget. And maybe I missed that, but it wasn't, when I look back now at the reports that we had on the budget, I don't recall ever seeing line items or any kind of definitions required or reported on how these milestones are reflected in the budget. And I think that would be really useful going forward. They feel separate to me right now. And I wonder if in our next budget planning session, we could understand better how the milestones are reflected in the budget.
And you're right, it was very, in the HR business case, you'll see
Yes.
reference to it.
Totally.
As you recall, we were in a very interesting time where we were looking at redoing our strat plan, but we had to in June get our budget out. So
Yeah.
I agree, it was much more separate than it normally would be.
Okay,
So point taken, and moving into the next budget cycle, we'll certainly align our asks with our strat plan.
yeah, and so that we can also see that as a board, how
Absolutely.
the milestones are actually budgeted for and where they show up. That would be really helpful. Thank you. That's all I have.
I'm noting that some of them will have a clear line item cost, and
Yes.
some of them are just.
Just in
bodies
the
doing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, there's a recommendation is to approve the milestones as we have them. All moved, seconded, all in favor, all opposed, carried. Thanks. Q3 2023 financial report. It says Chief Jensen, she knows.
It's actually
the
Chief
money is.
Darren.
Darren knows the money.
She's like, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
We don't have a presentation for today, just an opportunity to discuss the Q3 results. Ultimately, probably the biggest story of the Q3 results is that it is showing quite a favorable variance right now. At September 30th, we were estimating all of our salaries at the budgeted rate. And I am forecasting at a slightly higher rate for the end of the year. So that is reflected in the forecast document, but I don't think we're trending quite along where we thought we would at the end of Q2. Most of the expense accounts are as expected, with some obvious increases in items like legal and recruitment that we're trying to address in the next year's budget. So I thought we would open it up for questions.
Are there any questions? Everyone seems very happy
Coming in on budget.
for coming in. Yeah, okay, sorry, I just want to make sure. So it's a motion to receive. Moved and seconded, all in favor, all opposed, carried. Good job, chief. No,
Not you.
Not you.
No, that's how it works. Jacqueline does all the work for that.
Okay, 3.3 approval of 2024 provisional capital budget. Is there any, do you want to
So what
comment?
we have a presentation for sort of both,
Yeah, great.
that we could just maybe have the opportunity to discuss through them there.
Yeah, I think we have time. I think it'd be good to actually go through it.
Yeah, so I have some opening comments, but do you want me to do those first? Because I'm more focused on the operating, and then Jacqueline and I didn't rehearse this.
But maybe we should do capital first and
Want to just do the slides on capital, and then I'll do my opening comments on operating, Jacqueline?
I have got the capital, I'm just trying to find the file. No. I didn't say over from when I ejected it. I mean, do you have your? Do you have your?
Why don't you do your opening while Jacqueline has the,
I thought I'd have a little bit more time to set up before this meeting, but that's okay. I thought it was on here.
Stand by.
Do not put it on here. No, I'm gonna have to go grab the presentation.
I can email it to you right now, or no.
Can you email it to Haley? Are you logged in?
No, this is not looked.
Okay, it'll
Oh,
take. It's on the desktop.
I can, why don't I do
Yeah,
these
why don't you
comments,
start?
and it might be a
Yeah.
little off kilter, because I'm not focusing on the capital, but I'll talk about operating. So, as you know, Mayor and Board, we are happy to present to you, after many, many months, for your approval, the 2024 Westminster Police Department's provisional budget. As required in the Police Act, you must approve a provisional budget by November the 30th. This budget process, and I know you've heard me say this many times, but I think it's worth noting publicly again. It began in June, involved 6 open meetings, which included New Westminster City Council. As you well know, you had hundreds of pages, probably hundreds and hundreds of pages of reports, hours of conversation, and several alterations for the original budget, and to bring us where we are today. I do want to comment in one area, and this is to recognize an area that we've discussed, but also to thank you for your work on this. So we have seen the impact of several years of not addressing staffing challenges. As our pop to cop numbers increased in the last 20 years, now we have the highest differential of any in the region. At the same time, we have the second lowest budget growth percentage-wise of any of the regional municipal police agencies, and our growth of members is the second lowest amongst these same comparators. We cannot continue to see these discrepancies as it impacts public safety and ultimately our own staff's mental health. In January, the board will be provided with a presentation into our recently completed mental health and workplace culture survey. What I can tell the board now, though, is that the number one stressor identified by all staff, both sworn and civilian, was staffing shortages. But this budget reflects your direction to address this topic and builds on last year's backfill strategy that will provide staff support in delivering public safety to our community. And I want to thank you for that. In addition, the provisional budget includes funding for a new PD-based HR manager to better provide human resource management to all staff and to assist in building out a plan addressing the areas identified in the mental health and workplace culture survey that I just spoke of. Other increases fall outside of being discretionary and include contractual obligations such as collective agreements. And of course, I can't not mention e-com increases. And as you know, e-com now makes up, or in this budget makes up 16% of our overall 9.6% budget ask. With your support and direction, I believe we have creatively found a way to support NWPD through these challenges. And collectively, we have built a budget that will move us all in the right direction. So with that, I will slowly pass it over to
perfect timing.
the hardest working
Like a
person.
finely honed machine. Good work.
Take a breath.
The Jacqueline.
PowerPoint on this computer, so. Rather than printed it to PDF.
Oh, there you go. That's why.
That's why I have to run back a second time.
If we don't have a technical difficulty in one of our board meetings, then we're not having a board meeting. Awesome. Okay, Jacqueline, whenever you're ready, it's all yours.
Okay, I'm just gonna let Haley make sure I.
How is it not that hard? We're not computer, like a basic. One of the
I know,
basic
right?
program.
It's, I don't feeling I go.
It's updating.
No, there's one that's defined for this room, and that has it on it. This is like
Okay.
someone else's.
Okay. So, hopefully I didn't catch any of your opening introductions,
It
so.
was
but I
brilliant.
agree.
It was brilliant.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So we've really just got a really quick update. We met yesterday, we talked about a number of these things, but took the opportunity just to put through a couple of things for us to talk about. First one being our 2024 capital budget. Next, the provisional operating budget, some staff recommendations, and then an opportunity for questions and discussions. So I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller so everyone can see. Okay, so back in July, I believe we had our first round of discussions on the capital budget. There are no real changes from the last time we discussed capital budget. For the carry forward, that is in our building improvements, which is the feasibility studies that we referenced a couple of months ago. That was a carry forward from last year. We're just waiting for the city to have the ability to do that work, and then from there they will work through the budget. We did have some previous numbers forecasted in there for the renovations, and through work with the city, I realized they also are budgeting those numbers within their facility budget, so it was a duplication, so that was the one change there. For IT infrastructure, the team is continuing to do their work on storage and cloud migration. So these funds here are going to help continue that work, as well as a website refresh for next year that I know Haley is eagerly anticipating. And then into the police equipment, the continuation of the vest replacements and the rollout. We had decided to do the rollout of the CEWs over 2 years.
How much are than that? Right.
Vests are about 3,000. And they last about 5 years. Okay, so then on to operating budget. So I try not to do the exact same slides we presented yesterday. So what I did is
Totally different numbers.
All of those slides and combine them into one, so we can just take a look at what it means all together. You can see there, obviously, the largest increases the contractual obligations for salaries, moving on to the backfill as well as the e-com. The number of other increases that we've identified are pretty much all offset by the additional revenue. So I think it's just really nice that that opportunity exists, and that I think that Andrew did a lot of really good work with those revenue numbers to help offset some of those increases. So I just wanted to take a moment to highlight that. The remainder of the changes we already discussed many times, so I'm not going to go through them line by line, but just taking a look at the overall number is 9.61. You will see that the number of 2.7 is slightly different than what's in your package, and that's what the next slide just sort of breaks down. I've got this summary where we are showing the actual increase is 2.9, but 1.55 of that is for a one-time adjustment. It has to be in the budget for you to approve because it needs to be there for next year, but it's funded differently. So I just took the opportunity to present it differently because it's not actually part of our base budget. It's a one-time opportunity. That slide. So here we have, this is the same slide from yesterday and previous ones. I did just want to highlight that the 5-year average is about 5.9. Obviously, the last 2 years here we see the uptick while we're trying to right size the backfill. But over the last 5 years, the increase has been about 5.9. Okay, so then our recommendations today are for the police board to approve the 2024 provisional capital budget, and that Nevis Police Board will approve the 2024 provisional operating budget. Questions?
Okay, well, I have a quick
Catch
one.
my breath.
We're year 2 of the backfill strategy, and obviously we see that in the budget. We see that big number difference, and I think that's a huge
And I think
part
it's
of that.
e-com as well.
And
It's
e-com.
both of them hitting in
Yeah.
the same 2 years, yeah.
Do we have do we know yet the cost next year we anticipate for the 3rd year of the strategy? Do we know?
Yeah, it should be the same 650. We were taking the approach of
Right,
splitting the cost 3 ways. We're getting some good data this year. Because we are actually posting all of the recruits and all of the mat and pat leaves and all of the leaves to their own business unit, so we can get a really good, like, were our estimates true? They are looking like we're gonna come pretty much on target.
Nice.
For that 15.5
Yeah.
positions that we were thinking. So I think it's something we just need to continually evaluate as we review those business plans.
okay. Great, thanks. More questions? I think everyone's seen this a few times already. It hasn't changed a lot. And we talked about it yesterday with the council meeting, so I'm not sure if there's any new information or anything, but if folks are happy to, any questions or, yeah.
Just
please.
2 small
Mary?
questions. The HR role, the 80,000 is just for 6 months, you said
Yeah.
yesterday, right?
Yeah, so the remaining 80,000 becomes a contractual obligation for the next year, sort of part of our base budget.
So it gets rolled into the base budget going forward.
So the hope is it's really is just we're trying to match when we're gonna need it to the tax.
True, like,
Yeah.
because hiring takes time
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
that.
And, well, I guess I was gonna ask, are we hopeful that that will happen by June, but that's probably not. Do we think that's reasonable?
I think that's probably an answer question, that's maybe,
yeah,
that's maybe
it's a-
HR question.
Yeah, it's absolutely reasonable. The only hiccup always is the background investigation potentially, right? That's always where we
Right,
get
that
a
takes a
little,
long
a little nervous, right, you know?
Yeah.
But the actual hiring between 4 to 6 months is reasonable and we can time it to plan with you. That is reasonable.
Okay.
So, and again, just, yeah, are we gonna find the candidates that we
Right.
want for this position? Right?
Of course.
That's another challenge that we're facing this market, so.
Okay, and then just to solidify in my mind the backfill. This year's budget catches us up on the backfill that we did not do last year, in the first year.
No, it doesn't catch us up, but I think next year.
Gets us closer.
It gets us closer to, and it gives us one more year of checking what those true numbers are now with the impact of the collective agreement. So I
Okay,
think we'll have a little bit more data behind us. I wouldn't expect it, it's not gonna double, maybe give or take, and I think
Okay.
we'd look at that information next year.
okay, thank
And
you.
we did look at that kind of holistically with the budget, like, instead of catching up this year.
Yeah.
We brought forward the HR manager position.
Right.
So in a way,
Okay.
in my mind, it's kind of. It's not exactly the same, but in a way it is. It helps us get to the bottom of what we're trying to, or the board wants to get us to.
Okay, great.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Are
There
we
are,
commenting on whether we approve?
the motion, the recommendation ahead of us is that we approve both the capital and operating budget. Moved and seconded. Any other comments or questions?
I would like to make a comment.
Absolutely.
I would just like to acknowledge the work that staff did and the process, you know, coming in for my first time on the police board, it's hard to leap up into understanding budget and how it impacts the department. And I just want to acknowledge that you were able to provide all the information to questions and provide the reports really clearly. So I want to thank you for that. I know that in past meetings, I said I was challenged by supporting this budget, and I just wanted to let you know that I will be supporting it today. I think in good faith, based on the work that the staff have done and the work that the board has done previously regarding the backfill plan. I think it's absolutely reasonable. It's not easy to do this kind of a budget increase, but I do support the work that's gone into it. And I think that we can have some different discussions next time round in the budget planning about understanding the metrics, because I think for me, it doesn't just come down to the comparisons of other jurisdictions. I don't think that that's enough for us to determine our budget. I think we have to put in some other ways of measuring performance and measuring the outcomes. And I think that survey that you're going to provide to us will be really useful to understand the health of the organization, as opposed to how many officers does Delta have and how many does New West have. That doesn't tell me anything. So I really look forward to us maybe adding some depth to our budget discussions that include other things than just where we stand in a ranking of how many officers we have or don't have. But I just want to acknowledge the work and say that I will be supporting it today. Thank you.
If I have, my comments would be, yeah, thank you. This, again, it was, I know it's been a challenging year, especially for our director of finance.
I think we have, there's good ideas for next year. I have
Yeah.
more ideas on improving, how I present information. So I think next year will be even more wholesome.
Yeah, I know. Thank you for that. Yeah, and on that topic a little bit, I think one of the things I'm learning as in a year into this position is we don't talk enough about how police budgeting is different than the other departments in the city. I think we sort of included as one of with the 6 other departments in the city, without recognizing that how you budget for IT services, how you budget for for capital, like how you do it in a different way than every other department. And the apples to apples comparison doesn't really work very well. So we should, it'd be great next time around if we have, I don't want to do it this year because we have a lot on the table this year. And we were all learning at this phase, but I think for future conversation around the budget, we should maybe talk a little bit more about that and about how it is slightly different than everything else we do in the city. And that makes, yeah, I think it's just a useful thing for us to have a conversation about and keep in mind when we're talking to the public, when the police board is talking to the public about how the police budget's going. So, but thank you very much for the work this year. Thank you I mean, I know the entire administration staff's involved in doing this and yeah, it's a good report and I'm happy to support it. I don't see other comments, so maybe I'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And I was gonna let you vote first before I spoke. But
Just in
really,
case.
Sorry,
Yeah.
the motion's been moved.
That's it.
We,
I really want to thank, I know everyone knows what Jacqueline's been doing but thank you so much to Jacqueline and to Andrew and Paul. Part of the growth of management is obviously to try all these things that you're not used to as a being a police officer. So Andrew and Paul this year did a lot of work on this budget. It's we're well situated moving forward for everyone to learn about budgeting. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, I think that takes us to the end of our open agenda. There is no new business. So, yeah, next meeting is January 16th, 2024. I will move to adjourn. And please, and stick around. We will move into a closed meeting after this.